Welcome to the next section that has to do with data, information, files, and file management. These are four areas in which you will be doing a lot of your computing. Is handling data, turning it into information, putting that data or keeping that data that's now information in files, and then dealing with file management issues as to how to organize your files and keep them safely and securely. This may be based on the kind of work you do or the kinds of things that you are trying to accomplish, whether you're writing letters or working in documents of various types, even if they might be legal documents, for example. There are certain ways that you want to treat the data that you use and the information that you create, and there are certain ways you want to organize that as well as to manage that. So this is what this section is about. The first thing to consider is what is data. And data is really something that is raw. It's raw data. It's not in a useful form, generally speaking. Uh, what happens is you have to take the data and you have to put it into a systemized form and organize it in such a way that it's useful. So let's say you have lots of data about a client. You have his age, his date of birth, his phone number, his address, his first and last name, middle initial, and other kinds of information about him. And you want to create a database of all of your clients. Well, just having all that information and the various pieces that belong to this particular client kind of scattered around in your computer is one thing, or in a paper file is another thing. It's better, though, to have a system in which you code the client by giving him or her an identification number of some sort, and you tie all of these bits of information that are characteristics or properties of the client, you tie them together in an organized form. So this is what you're actually doing. You're creating a file on your computer that mimics the paper file that maybe you have in a file cabinet. And in that paper file, you say have a picture of your client. Maybe you have complete first, last, and middle initial. Maybe you even have the middle name spelled out. You have the birth date, current age. You have the phone number at home and the phone number they use at work and the phone number that is available, say they have a cell phone. And then also you have addresses, whether you have a physical address or you must have a physical address, in addition to perhaps a mailing address, which might be different, their post office box, let's say. All of these things, you have a place to put them, and you have that in a form that's a digitized form that goes into a file. And the file might be called client accounts. That might be the name of the file. Or you might call it a folder rather, because it has many many types of files of the same nature inside that folder. And you name the folder clients. And then maybe you've got a file inside the folder that's client accounts. And then maybe you have another file in there that has to do with delinquent client accounts. So you set it up, you organize it the way that best fits your business or your work or something that you're doing creatively on your own. This is what you do with data. You make it useful. You put it into an information form. It's the same thing with thinking of a rough draft for a report as opposed to the finished draft. The rough draft is not what you want to submit. That's not what you want to send to the magazine or to the executive committee for review. You want to send a finished document that has been cleaned up and has been scrubbed for for incorrect spelling, for any kind of grammatical error, so that you can have a piece of information that is a finished piece of information that you submit to someone at your workplace, or maybe on a contest of some sort. Software can actually help you to manage your uh, files. Now, so that you understand, all of the digitized information that's in your file is in the form of ones and zeros. And it's called a one or a zero is called a bit, and it represents a bit of space in a computer's memory. So when you are talking about file management and file contents, you're actually talking about the available amount of space you have on your computer, and how to conserve that space and how to use that space to your best interest. As a rule of thumb, remember, data is used by computers, information is used by human beings. So that is a good way to think about what we're doing, and how to look at it. We have two different kinds of files, generally speaking, on our computers: a data file as opposed to an executable file. A data file just has data that can be processed, can be manipulated and used in various forms to create various different kinds of documents. An executable file, though, contains actual programs or instructions that tell a computer how to perform a specific task. So this is the work processing program, or maybe I should better say a word processing program or a spreadsheet processing program that you might be using. And it actually tells the computer how to display and present the information that you're gathering and you're putting together, so that you can produce the graph, or you can produce the report of the presentation that you need to make. So this is what we mean by that. You can look at a file by opening it. Sometimes the files have a permissions on them such that you can't open the file. But maybe you can simply open it and read the contents, but you can't change the contents of the file. These are things that you encounter at a workplace. You should have access to all files that you need to be able to open and read and perhaps modify or change. Some files cannot be modified. They should not be modified. They should remain in the condition that they are in. So you can keep that in mind when you look at your files. Remember that the extension for Word is like .doc, and current Word is .docx. These extensions tell you about the contents of a file. Just like an executable file will usually have an extension with .exe on the end of it. So that will keep you from misunderstanding what the file might be. We need to understand that RAM is temporary memory. It's not the kind of memory that you're going to be using as a storage option over time. This is why you're taking, when you save something on your computer, you save it to the hard drive. You're taking up space on your hard drive. That's why you might need additional space that's external to your computer to either back up or save information that you've created, documents that you've made on those devices, so you don't take up too much space on your computer. The more icons and the more things that you have on your desktop, for example, in your computer, you will find that those are taking up space too. And they might be running, and they might be absorbing resources even though you're not using them, because they are on display on your desktop. So you might want to check into that and see what services are running. You need to know the difference between the save option and the save as option. Frequently, when beginning students are starting to use computers, starting to get familiar with how to operate a computer, they just simply think that the save button is going to save something in the way they want it to be saved. And that's not exactly the way it is. The save option saves what you currently have in front of you, say in a Word document. It just saves it right then and there, what you have. But it doesn't save it as a particular file or a particular document where you have named it. And you have named it with the intent of saving it for a long-term period. And you have named it so that you can organize it properly and put it maybe in the right folder or use it in the right place in your business. So you are giving it a name, a different name when you have save as, whereas when you save, just save the document, it's being saved in the current existing name that you may or may not have given the document. So when you save it as, you have intentionally named that document and saved it for a specific purpose. There are a lot of ways to think about file management and how do you manage your files. You should always use descriptive names. You should always maintain some file name extensions, because if you don't do that, it's a good possibility you won't be able to reopen it or use it ever again. So you want to use the same file name extension. Sometimes it's even good to save the same file in a lower, quote unquote, lower type extension that's an earlier version of the same software. Because sometimes you have saved it in a current version of the software and you go to another machine somewhere else and you can't open it because that current version is not on that machine. So no matter how hard you try, you can't open it. So you can save it also in a lower version of the same software or in RTF, for example, rich text format, or ODT, open document text, and you will find that these other kinds of versions are more or sometimes easier to work with when trying to open up your document on another machine. Remember to group files that are similar by name or by function or whatever they pertain to. You put accounting files with accounting files and not with marketing and sales files. That's the way to think of it. Use your descriptive names that really do describe what's inside the file. Organize your folders from the top down in a hierarchical fashion. Consider using the My Document default directory, which is a good place to store folders by name or groups. And do not mix data files and program files. This is a very important thing to consider. Do not put files of any type in the root directory. First of all, you'll have a hard time finding the root directory, and even if you do, it doesn't belong there. So don't do that. It is acceptable to do it, but it doesn't make any sense. Access files from the hard disk. For best performance, you can copy files from floppy disks and CDs to your computer's hard disk before accessing them. But again, you don't have to leave it all there. It's a good thing to do to store them somewhere else as well, and that access as a backup to what you've been doing. Follow your copyright rules always, and delete any files that you haven't been using or do not need anymore. And try and make sure that all of this is organized in such a way that it's easy for you to remember. This makes it easier, not just for you, but someone that might be working with you on trying to get some work done at your workplace, if they understand what you're doing as well. When you get into file management, you can have storage needs that are beyond the scope of this course, but you can get some really good file management software to use as well. So thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you again soon. Thank you.